fantastic host here with 2 out of the 3 Davids tonight. David Van and David Oldham with 3D Politics. 3D Politics live every Monday. You never know how great it's going to be till you get here and watch. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. The Socialist Pope, which has got me all fired up. You should have been Lutheran. The greatest Republican week also. Greatest Republican week in 50 years.
Absolutely.
A caucus update.
Yep.
You don't want to miss that. Caucus update. And 118 political prisoners in Florida. But guys, hey, before we get started, let me just make sure this thing's on. Let's see. Okay. And okay, I guess we're all... I believe we're all here.
We now have the mark of the beast.
Guess we're all clear of the corona. Want to check everybody out. So, you guys been avoiding travel to China this week?
We have. I actually had a flight attendant living in my home though who goes to China regularly. So, and this was anyway, that was interesting.
So I have got to talk a little bit about this Tax the Rich. This is from Thomas D. Williams, Breitbart.com, February 6th.
Yeah. Tax
the Rich. Pope Francis called for global wealth redistribution. Tax cuts for the wealthy constitute a structure of sin, he says. Yeah. Pope Francis said that on Wednesday in a passionate address calling for international wealth redistribution. And seems like he wants to just teach everyone how to do their...
Oh, no. You don't have to teach people to do what Jesus said when you just make laws to force them.
Well, what's interesting, in the free market economies that favor wealth creation, such as the United States, extreme poverty has virtually been eradicated. What I find interesting about this is he talks about a structuring tax for the rich. With the Pope, typically he's talking about the world, not the structured rich versus poor within the American system. He's talking about a global system, typically when you're talking about the entire Catholic Church. And so when he talks about, he said, today's structures of sin include repeated tax cuts for the richest people, often justified in the name of investment and development. Which investment and development sounds like a school teacher to me. But today's structure of sin include repeated tax cuts for the richest people. Well, the richest people only live in America. We don't have extreme poverty in America. It says also in here that $1.90, according to the widely used international poverty line, people are considered to be in extreme poverty if they live on less than $1.90 per day or its equivalent. Now you don't find that in America.
No.
The most impoverished in America have a couple of air conditioners and typically a car. And so the idea that the Pope
and lottery tickets
tickets.
The other thing is that the $1.90, against what are they deciding that is, because quite frankly $1.90 in other countries buys a whole lot of stuff, and it's really not apples to apples.
David, that's taken into account with the international poverty line that's widely used. They've calculated
it's widely used, David.
I mean, we're not going to.
It doesn't make any sense, but it's widely used.
We're not going to break down $1.90 just to Oldham can.
No, in some countries, $1.90, what we call $1.90,
yes, but they've taken these into account.
40,
that's why they call it the international.
You could probably hire a housekeeper for.
Next week, I want you to bring your stats on what we call the international poverty line.
I'm not going to get into that.
That's what I'm trying to avoid right now. My point is that when the Pope says we got to quit giving tax breaks to the wealthy, that is a slap in the face of America. That doesn't say anything to Africa, doesn't say anything to the rest of the world. The Pope is simply agreeing with socialist Democrats that we need to spend more money the way he says.
Well, also, let's understand, the Pope has a vested interest in saying this because they get a lot of money from governments. They get a lot of money. And
yeah, that's true. Now,
and so the more money government has, the more money they can take.
That's true. I mean, Catholic Charities has been being paid by the Obama administration to bring all the Somalis in over the last decade. So
to get an idea, and this is again from the Breitbart story, in the world today, less than 10% of the global population lives in extreme poverty, whereas just 30 years ago, 1990, some 37% of the world lived in extreme poverty. 2 centuries ago, nearly everyone in the world lived in extreme poverty. 2 centuries ago, what country came about around 2 some odd centuries ago?
Tom, I'm concerned about this. You remember going back to the 80s with the Sandinista government. I believe Daniel Ortega's brother was a Catholic priest who was heavily preaching this liberation theology, which had nothing to do with libertarianism, did it?
No.
Okay. So,
Right.
Nor did it have anything to do with theology. It was all about give us money.
A typical
and this
pretty
is
much.
the problem, because they are taking the traditional role of the church and supplanting it with government force.
Yes.
And again, I love this mantra. This is great. Again, from this guy's great, Thomas D. Williams, Breitbart. It must be acknowledged at the end of his piece here, however, that no such gap, he says, exists. This is that poverty gap. There is no such gap exists between the wealthy and the poor, since the vast majority of people live somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
There is not a cluster of ridiculously rich people followed by an immense mass of very poor people. The majority of people are neither very rich nor very poor.
Well, you look at, remember back at the end of the 80s and into the 90s when East and West Germany unified, and the people in West Germany went into East Germany and said, my God, the squalor they lived in, and the pollution, and all these things that were brought about by socialism.
Right.
And now what is the Pope teaching? Hyper-socialism.
I mean, it's ridiculous. The thing, when the last time the Pope insisted we answered questions was, I think it was a dangerous situation.
The French Inquisition.
I think that's what they called it. But I mean, the biggest difference between socialism and what Jesus preached was an opportunity to opt out. You get to not be involved. But socialism,
right,
like the Pope is preaching, unlike what Jesus preached, there's no opting out. He's suggesting that he's going to be an economist as well as Pope.
Well, actually, ministers in the United States have the opportunity still to opt out of the biggest act of socialism in American history, which is Social Security. My son, who is a pastor, he does not have to pay income taxes on, he does on his personal stuff, but the church doesn't have to pay any income taxes. And a third of his income, he gets to be listed as parsonage allowance, which is not technically income. And so, I mean, the ministers have the best deal. And so the socialism thing, I'm sorry. I'm not going to take my cues on government policy from any denomination, any church, any religion, because of things like this.
Actually, they should be calling for a separation of church and state.
Yeah.
What they're wanting to do is they're wanting to have government take their place.
Yeah.
And they want to get the money from government because it's easier to get money from one place.
Yeah.
Convince a few people and get money from one or two places than it is from having to get it from all of the.
Tom, nobody spoke more strongly on limiting the power of organized religion than did Jesus and the Apostle Paul. They talked liberty, they talked freedom, they talked getting out of the bondage of the law, and I'm telling you, this is the time where if you're going to call yourself a minister of the gospel, you got to be grounded in the gospel.
Well, let's also understand that in the American context, what the Pope talks about is lawlessness. Okay? And so it's directly the opposite of obeying Christ, because remember that we are to obey the governing authority. Well, who's the governing authority in America? Is it any man? Is it any woman? The answer is no. It's the Constitution that we, the people, have all come together and ratified. So
where'd your mind go, Tom?
Is that what they call that? not such a bad
So
guy after.
the whole point is that there has to be equal protection under the laws. There's not under progressive taxation.
Right.
There are limits to what government may tax for. Those have been long abandoned. There are things that cannot be taxed, just absolutely cannot be taxed, because they violate individual rights. They can't steal your property for whatever boondoggle they may have, just without just compensation, or without you having done something and get due process of law. So to say, oh, we need to have more progressive taxation and we need to get rid of, any benefits at the top and charge the top more, violates all of those tenets in America. They may work in other countries where, the ruler can do as he wants, but not in America.
Yeah, the idea of giving unto Caesar was to give rightfully unto Caesar what was rightfully Caesar's.
No, actually, it was what Caesar demanded. No, Caesar was the governing authority in Rome.
Okay, but Jesus didn't owe. Jesus didn't. His kingdom was not Caesar's kingdom, and so the idea that Jesus was saying, obey Caesar according to what Caesar is owed, according to the government structure.
Correct.
But not according to, God doesn't deal in currency.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. But what I'm saying is that Jesus obeyed the law as it existed on earth
That's
at
true.
that time.
Yeah.
What I am saying is our law here in America is completely different than every other country on earth.
It's true.
And
Yes.
that is the difference. And the problem is that it's been gradually going more like France, more like Great Britain, more like other countries around the world. And we've got to remember, we're unique for a reason.
Yes.
And we've got to get back to that uniqueness.
That's true. Yep. The power
Yeah.
of the king is divested amongst many entities.
Well, we're
Yeah.
each sovereign.
Yeah.
There is a great article, Lawrence W. Reed, called Rendering Unto Caesar Was Jesus a Socialist? And this is great reading for everyone. You should, it's from
Not in America.
Have you ever heard of the FEE? That is the,
Yes.
what is that? The Foundation for Economic Education.
Yes.
It's an excellent article that deals with all this.
Well, Tom, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Everybody believes in Jesus, just not the Jesus of the Bible.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Everybody has their own Jesus.
The idea of rich is a totally subjective term.
Sure it
The
is.
Pope is like, "Oh, rich,
Yep,
well,
right.
you're rich.
Right.
Let me borrow your miter for
Yeah.
a weekend."
Yeah.
So,
and I might make the argument that the Pope may be caught up in materialism more than he claims the West is, because he's the one that's obsessing on this.
full disclosure, it's the first Pope I haven't liked in 600 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, usually I like them.
Well, you start out liking them old popes real good, didn't you? They-
That's okay. They're about 600 years among the times anyway, right?
600 years since they installed a Pope.
yeah.
No, it's not easy to be Pope.
Okay, Tom, tell me something. We'll find one good thing about Pope Francis.
Wow.
Can you?
I like the name Francis.
There you go.
Francis is a good name.
Yeah.
Good Irish name for a German.
I'm just saying.
For a
It's,
German Pope.
I'll bet the Pope could set me straight.
Yeah.
My spiritual neck is not on the chopping block like the Pope's. So God might have told him, "Hey, you say this." I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, God told me not to listen to him.
Tom McKay here, your fantastic host, 3D Politics Live, every Monday, 7 p.m. David Van, David Oldham, and we're going to talk a little bit now about the greatest Republican week in 50 years.
Yes! Yes!
What's the
Yes!
timeline? Give us a timeline.
Yes! I'm telling you, and I've got exhibit 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on this.
Let's hear it.
Number 1, impeachment fizzles.
Yeah.
All of the things that they said were going to happen, all the things they were going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt.
No, they had proved beyond any doubt. Had already proved.
Yeah. And Trump's approval ratings went up during
Actually
impeachment.
went
His fundraising skyrocketed.
Right.
Yes, it did.
And that, so, I mean, the impeachment thing turned into a joke. Well, it did one good thing.
Yeah.
It exposed Mitt Romney for the weasel he is. And
Yes,
I'm not
it
even
did.
saying Mitt Romney's a Democrat and hiding. Mitt Romney is a weasel that's for Mitt Romney, nobody, nothing else.
Well, and there was a lot of people who had been hoodwinked by Mitt Romney for a long time,
Yes.
and this pulled the veil back pretty
It
hard.
really did. So, impeachment number one. Number two, the best State of the Union ever. You and I were sitting down together. Let's not even mention where we were because I hated that night spot we went to watch it. I don't think we're going back there again. Anyway, but
Some
guys
of
were
us
seated-
politicos actually got together and watched the State
Yeah,
of the
You
Union.
were
we did.
seated down front with the ladies in white?
We did.
Oh, you weren't
No.
actually. You were actually there.
well, there's, somebody comes in, they've got some health concerns, and they're trying to get the chlorine out of their system, and that, so they bring in bottled water. And they got basically told, you either get rid of that or I'm kicking you out. And we don't want to be here. Water!
Well, you can't. Yeah.
There's no outside food or drink. Okay, but let's get back to this. It was a masterpiece. Was it not?
It was beautiful.
I
It was a
mean,
beautiful
all of the heartstrings, I like what Dana Lash said. It was the Hallmark Channel version of a State of the Union.
It was.
I mean, you had a family with dads out fighting the war,
Reunited.
fourth
Yes.
deployment, and the wife and kids are being honored. And Trump said, you know what? We can't hold him back anymore. Bring your husband in. He comes walking into the halls of Congress, into the gallery,
Yeah.
And all that. And it's just one thing after another. He pulled every lever that the Democrats claimed they owned.
Right.
Education, minority rights, lifting up the minority classes, lowest unemployment rate for women, for minorities,
Right.
for youth.
Giving a
I was saving that.
Oh, okay. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
And he just hit all of one of the original Tuskegee Airmen.
Right.
And then his great-grandson who wants to be an astronaut now. And they're both right there. And it was just one. And then the last thing. Here we go. He honors Rush Limbaugh, who had just announced the day before that he's fighting advanced stage cancer. And he has Rush stand applause in front of Nancy Pelosi's House of Representatives. And then he says, you're being given the highest civilian honor, the Medal of Freedom. And then he says, Melania, if you got it there, let's go ahead and give it to him now. In front of Nancy Pelosi, Rush Limbaugh got his medal in the Democrat House.
In your face. It
Yeah,
was pretty
so
good.
that's number two. Number three, the best Gallup poll numbers for Trump. He's higher than Obama was at this point. He just,
Right.
I mean, you would think.
by the same polling agency.
Right, by Gallup.
Right.
Yeah, which has never really done conservatives well.
No.
But, again, they thought they needed to impeach him to drive his numbers down, and it had the opposite
Yes, exactly,
effect.
it has.
You might say the guy is inoculated now, but because that's what they said about Clinton. They did that
Yes,
in
they
his
did.
second term. In his last 2 years, he was said to be inoculated. You've tried,
Oh yeah.
that didn't work. Now what's, your nuclear option now? Okay, so there's that. Stock market. When Obama left office, we were at, 18,000. We're now at 28,000 in 3.5 years. Well, 3 years, really.
Right.
Since Trump took over. And, regulations are down. Businesses are given raises. Jobs and wages are going up. So we got all that. And then Exhibit 5, the Iowa debacle.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
The Democrats can't count.
Yes.
Pretty bad.
Instead, they gave participation trophies to everybody, and they scurried on to New Hampshire, which is tomorrow night. So, I mean, it just
Bernie claimed the win in Connecticut or in.
he did, but so did Buttigieg. It's
No,
on
I mean-
Klobuchar.
Did she really?
Well, actually, she's spiking the polls, and we can go on. Actually, we're going to have a little later our caucus updates. We're going to talk about the weeks ahead because every week now something's coming up.
Right.
And I think that's going to have to be a regular update feature for the
We're
next
getting
few
ready to
weeks.
move into that. We're getting ready to move into that next. If you're ready to move to
Yeah,
that.
well, again, Klobuchar, who, was never more than 5. I think at some point she got 6% in some of the polls. Now, in this week, since Iowa, she's now surpassed Warren and Biden into third place behind Sanders and Buttigieg. Now, Sanders has always pretty much owned New Hampshire amongst the Democrats.
I think you always want to be behind Buttigieg. Don't you?
Okay. And,
I mean, as opposed to
okay.
I don't want to be anywhere
So,
wrong.
anyway, so yeah, Buttigieg and Klobuchar, to lesser degree, those two have the big momentum, and stuff. And Klobuchar, to her credit, she was the only one at the last debate. They asked, "Do any of you have a problem with the socialists atop the ticket?" Not one of them raised their hand except Amy Klobuchar.
Okay.
So good. She has half a
She's
brain.
taking up Tulsi Gabbard's spot.
Yes, I think that's what it is.
From what I heard,
Yeah.
her hand shot up
Yeah.
like a bean sprout.
Yeah. Now, my projection in this is going to be this. It'll be Sanders, Buttigieg, Klobuchar. And now Biden will not drop out until he runs out of money, because nobody ever
Correct.
drops out until
Correct.
for any other reason than they're out of money.
All right.
So that's what's going to happen, and it's going to be followed by New Hampshire. Nevada. So they're going to run out to Las Vegas, and very few of them will ever leave the Las Vegas metro area, because that's like 90% of the population.
Right.
And then a little while
They'll
later,
take a side trip to Reno,
Yeah.
and that's about it. Lake
and then
Tahoe, that's about it.
at the end of the month, or almost in a month, we'll have the South Carolina. I do need to tell you a few things about the math. In many of these states, instead of 15% threshold now, you may need 20% in order to get any delegates. But in fact, Michael Biondo, who ran Rick Santorum's
Right.
campaign, I texted him tonight. I still haven't heard back from him whether New Hampshire has that 50% majority thing where you get all of them if you got a majority.
Right.
Oh,
So
okay.
takes
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, if you got 52 and somebody else got 30, and they think, well, 30, I'm going to get plenty. No, and if somebody
No,
gets
right.
52, they get all
They
of
get
them.
everything.
And that's going to be the deal coming up. Super Tuesday, which is, of course, Oklahoma, first Tuesday in March, is also going to be the California primary this year.
Oh, right.
And
right.
California, which is not going to be winner take all like they always have been, because they were always first of June,
Right.
first part of June. Remember, Robert Kennedy won that, took all of them the night he was shot.
Correct.
And
You were there too?
I remember watching it on TV. Believe
You
it or
like
not, I
mayhem.
do remember watching.
You're like mayhem
Yeah.
everywhere.
So anyway, so this will be interesting. Also, tonight as we speak, Trump is doing a rally right now
Yeah.
in New Hampshire, and he does have an opponent. William Weld is
Yes, he does.
giving his shot.
No.
But here's the thing. As long as Trump gets 50%, he should get all of the delegates. It doesn't matter what Weld gets. In fact,
Right.
South Carolina canceled their Republican. No, it's Nevada. Instead of doing caucuses like they normally do in Nevada, they're holding their state committee meeting and doing a straw poll of that. And they're going to give the delegates based on the straw poll of the state central committee. So,
Now I heard that
Okay.
Mayor Pete gathered 1,000 for a rally, but there was a competing rally with a cardboard cutout of Trump that drew 800.
yes.
Oh, really?
A cardboard cutout drew 800 of Trump.
Well, yeah.
Supporters.
The Iowa caucuses.
Pete was able to stand there live
Yeah.
and get 1,000.
The Iowa caucuses, Republicans were just shocked. All these people showed up. They said, "You bet we're showing up for Trump." I mean, the Republican Party there was totally caught by surprise. They weren't expecting that many.
Right.
I expected Mayor Pete to kind of hide for 6 weeks after that botched eyebrow job. Wow, did you see that bleeding on face and face?
Yeah.
No, I did not see
Oh,
that.
Well,
God.
he's not as cute as he was when he was on the Addams Family. You never- when Buttigieg was a child actor in the Addams Family, you didn't know.
I did not know that. No, I did not know that.
I'm making that up.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be why.
Some people
That
would
and
believe
I,
it.
that
You
and
look
I
at the
haven't
pictures.
seen that, and I haven't seen the Addams Family. So.
Ba-da-da-da. Hey, don't forget to update everybody. Next week, I got a great opportunity on Wednesday night, February 19th. I get to interview Rex Lawhorn right here on 3D Politics Live on a Wednesday night, 7 p.m. With Rex, the gubernatorial candidate from 2018. We're going to talk all the sticky issues of libertarianism, and it'll be exciting to bring him on and have him explain that to us. So don't forget, Wednesday 19th February next week, right here, 7 p.m.
We're right here at the 3D Studios.
Very excited. You ready to move on about the Florida sheriff?
Sure.
So the Florida sheriff arrested 118 political prisoners. This comes from Constitutional Grounds, February 6, 2020. Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Cronister announced the end of a 9-month sting operation codenamed House Hunters. Sounds like a reality television show. In the sting, detectives posed as homeowners. Who you calling homeowner? In at least 5 houses and hired unlicensed contractors and handymen from Craigslist.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe some other places where they got names.
handyman.
Was that?
Is that what this is? This is a sting handyman?
Yes. Home remodelers and handymen. Yes.
Oh no!
Yes.
So tell us about it.
Well, it's one of these enforcement operations for a state that has licensing for handymen and home remodeling contractors of various forms.
Oh, this is horrible.
In the attached, if you go to Constitutional Grounds, we've got the article up there, and we show the video of their press conference. And he called every non-licensed handyman a con man.
Well, they've got contractor porn right here. This smut is horrible. These contractors were filmed performing the work for which they were hired. God.
Yeah,
Sick.
the warning is that they would run off with your money and not do the work, but they had them on camera doing the work, or it would be shoddy.
Contractor porn.
And the whole point about getting them on camera, it sounds like that they wanted evidence that they had actually contracted.
Yeah.
So they actually had them start the work, and then they busted them. But
they should have just stamped them USDA.
But here's the thing: here in Oklahoma, we don't even have a license for most of those trades.
We don't have a con man license.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, I'm going to put a plug in for one of the guys who's been fighting in the legislature against this has been State Representative Mark McBride. He's a member of leadership. Well, he's got a roofing contracting company himself. He is a home contracting guy.
Right.
And a lot of these guys, look, unless you can show that there's compelling state interest, then there should not be anything.
Well, the thing is that there can never be a compelling state interest when it comes to licensing.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, licensing says that you do not have the right to perform a particular action
Unless we give you permission.
First, and you're a criminal if you do.
Okay, now isn't that what the courts have commonly called laws of prior restraint?
Yes, specifically in First Amendment cases, they call it prior restraint. If it has been used in other cases, I am unaware of it.
Okay.
But that prior restraint means that you can't write this or that.
Or like you need a permit to have a parade or a rally.
Well, the permit for a parade is more because you're going to be taking up public space and using it for your event instead of its normal event that it's used for.
For
so
people
like a
to
parade,
walk down the street.
Correct, but we're gonna be shutting down the street for all traffic, and we're going to be providing
But until Edison devised some little invention, everybody walked down the street.
Well, that's true. But
Yes.
That was your idea in the first place.
the main thing is everybody else is going to have to go around.
Right.
So
But to hold a rally in the park, what else would happen in the
you
park?
You don't need
People
a permit
would gather
for that.
in the park.
No, you don't need a permit for that unless you're going to take up the park.
Well, didn't we had a Trump
No,
rally
we had to get the
months ago.
bathrooms opened up.
Oh, the permit was for the bathrooms. You need a license.
I don't know. I don't
you
know that.
need a license
I
to
don't know that.
crap, people.
I thought that's what opened the bathrooms, which you had to have the permit that you're having an event. But that's all hearsay.
Well, don't get me wrong. They abuse the permitting
Sure.
process.
Yeah.
They try to make you have a permit just so you can exercise your First Amendment rights.
Well,
but here we're trying to exercise our Ninth Amendment rights to fix a home, which is just actions that are covered by the general Ninth Amendment. And and here we have, I want to hire an unlicensed handyman. Hey, like the guy next to me. And that
guy.
I didn't do it. Nobody saw me do it. You can't prove anything.
What in the world?
and if I want to hire a con man, I get to hire
I'm
a con
here to
man.
hire a con. You got a personal, great contractor right here. And if you need a con man, I'm right here.
I got to tell you though.
But I'm a handyman as well.
What I've been told by many contractors and some municipal and county employees is the purpose of the permit is so that they're put on record to come and reassess your home value afterward and raise your taxes.
Well,
That's really what it's about.
Yes, for the home. But the thing is that when you have a licensed contractor, now you may still have to have the permit for the the addition and things like that. The city may want to try to get you to do that, but again, it's your property. They don't.
But that licensed contractor, in many states, they are told you can lose your license as a contractor if you do unpermitted work.
Correct.
You see, it all comes back to the tax dollar and giving them notice to come and reappraise
and ease of and extra judicial means of bringing people into compliance.
Yes,
because this all remains in the executive branch.
It's what my old friend Senator Rubottom called laws of government convenience.
Yes.
Yeah,
very much.
So, I mean, this really falls on the umbrella term. You're usually fighting against anything with a license, and that's what this. 118 were arrested for contracting without a license. Is essentially the upshot.
Correct.
And the Chronister highlighted. This is Chad Chronister. This is the guy, the sheriff, Chad
He's the
Chronister.
sheriff. Yeah.
He highlighted that 3 men were arrested, and these are the examples of how he's stamping out crime. And the first man was a man from whom licensing would protect the public, he said. He was a convicted rapist who had served his punishment. So here's a guy, I mean, you got to admit it's probably tough getting a job after you've served a sentence for rape. Thanks, Sheriff, for bringing it up again. Nonetheless, he's barred from obtaining a contractor's license because we don't want you to have a contractor's license if you violated a woman. And which is understandable. You can't have this guy in private homes. The only way he can do such work is to work unlicensed, which is an interesting angle. The second man, whose license had been revoked 9 years ago, but since licensing is outside of any constitutional allowable law, there's no due process for revocation. They can't string him up or castrate him.
Well, the point is that he had his license.
I mean, what do you want from these people?
You know what, Tom?
I'm just
Some
saying.
people have a hard time saying what they think. Tom here can say what he thinks without thinking.
I'm an unlicensed contractor. The third man who had been previously caught in another similar sting, like we're doing these every weekend, folks. If you need some work done. And then again, the sheriff did not allege that he committed any fraud or performed any shoddy work. I would say shoddy work's being done by the sheriff, arresting people for stuff he can't do anything. He can't do anything. Maybe he's just collecting a whole bunch of people that's going to have to do some work on his house.
Eventually. Well, but the entire point was there was nothing that had any bearing on any of the warnings he gave, shoddy work or steal your money. No one was highlighted as having done those very things. Watch the video for yourself. It's glaringly missing. The only thing was those 3, and frankly, the former rapist, and we have to call him a former because we don't know that he's doing anything now. He would be, the public would have been protected from him because he would have been denied a license.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that you can't deny a man a way to earn a living because of his criminal past.
Yeah, yeah.
And the thing is that you can't deny a man a way to earn a living because of his criminal past.
Yeah, and I was saying, in Oklahoma, I read in our Constitution, and we've got very strict restrictions on our judicial courts, particularly in criminal law. Things like you can't take a man's horse from him. Okay,
Right.
now,
Yep.
what did the horse mean 110 years ago? That was a way that a guy could actually live. You can't take away the tools of a man's proper trade. You know, things like this.
Correct.
This just smacks of just overbearing government.
So,
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the things that's brought out on constitutional grounds all the time, once again, if you're just tuning in, Tom McKay, 3D Politics Live, David Van, SoonerPolitics.org, and David Oldham, ConstitutionalGrounds.com. One of the things Oldham is always pointing out, and he says that the creation and enforcement of these political crimes is it must end. And the fact that you call them a political crime to arrest someone for not having a license, how can you explain that as a political crime?
Well, in other words, it's just a dictate handed down by government. There is nothing there where anyone else was harmed. So no actual crime was created.
No victim.
There's no victim.
Okay.
No victim it was alleged in any of this. It was concerned that there might be or would be, but
Right.
nothing was alleged that there was actually a crime, a victim in any of these
Okay.
stings. And so what you have is as a political crime, it's I declared you can't, you did, so therefore you're a criminal. That's a
Yeah.
political crime.
Yeah. I would say the only thing, and this would be such a slight technicality, is look at that licensing fee as nothing more than a tax, as an excuse for the government to collect more money and justify its bloated existence. And so if you say, okay, the guy didn't pay his $50 licensing fee or $500, who knows what they're going to charge, county and state, as well as city. That would be the only thing I could say is if you looked at it as a tax.
Except for the prior aspect to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that if you don't do X, Y, or Z, that you then are in violation and you now are a criminal. That is the problem.
Yeah, and I also have a problem with applying it as a tax, and I'll tell you why. Our income tax is based on actual income we get.
Correct.
This would be a tax on your right to work before you even make $1.
It's a tax on a right.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court even has gotten that one correct.
Yeah.
As much as they get wrong, they've gotten that one correct.
What's
that
the press?
You cannot tax a right.
Okay.
Okay, you cannot inhibit a right.
Yeah.
And that is and they have said it, and don't ask me the case because I don't
No,
remember
that's
it at the
true,
moment.
because the famous yarmulke case, that a tax on yarmulkes is essentially tax on Jews. You're
Correct.
going after specific
Correct.
race.
Or impersonators.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unlicensed Jews. Well, I wasn't going to bring it up, but how is this sting thing and the fining people for having a right? Freedom of movement is a right. It's
Correct.
the pursuit of happiness. So, what is the difference in a sting operation at the house and a sting operation called a sobriety checkpoint, where they pull
Nothing.
you? Okay, then, because what they're doing with the sobriety checkpoint is the same thing. They're saying, well, you might have shoddy driving in the future.
Yeah.
We're pulling everybody over in case somebody might have shoddy
Or you
driving.
might be doing something now. It's the same thing as a general warrant that used to be issued by the king, and that would be just go out and find bad people and stop everybody and sort them out.
Yeah.
And that was
sounds really good when you say it. When you say it,
Yeah.
I like it when you say it.
racial profiling or profiling in general.
I've met Rachel.
The point is that was one of the indictments that we put in the Declaration of Independence against the King of England.
Yeah.
Because he was doing that. We declared that null and void, illegal, and we can't have it brought back and have it be legal now, lawful now. It's antithetical to anything American.
Yeah.
So to put a cap on this story from Florida, and once again from constitutional grounds, it says it is time to hold our justice system, like the police, the DAs, and judges, to account. Please like and share. Go to constitutional grounds and make constitutional governance the discussion.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about capital updates.
Yes, we've had 1 week of the legislature. Folks, keep an eye on your belongings. The legislature's in session. Okay? So a lot's
So
happened.
this is like football. How many weeks do they go? 16?
Yeah, they go till Memorial Weekend.
How many weeks is it?
That's end of May, so I guess 4 months.
It's about 16,
Just
17
like
weeks.
football.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah, but they've already passed one out of committee called HB 3359. For those of you who like to study bills, what this is, it's a totalitarian government.
It is.
Deal, and somebody notified me. Actually, it was Chris Powell, the Libertarian candidate for governor,
Okay.
the one that defeated Rex Lawhorn. And so, anyway, and he found out from Ryan Kiesel, the ACLU director in Oklahoma, and they're shocked. So I wrote this article, and the next Wednesday, I get a call from somebody close to the author, David Smith. David Smith is a freshman lawmaker from down in the McAllister area. He defeated
Correct.
Donnie Condit. Well, and it basically says a cop now has a right to stop and detain and question anybody they want, whether crimes happened at all.
If they have cause to believe that you are in the process of a crime, about to commit a crime, or just have committed a crime.
Not probable cause, which is a legal term.
Not probable cause.
If they have a reasonable suspicion.
Reasonable suspicion.
So if they feel suspicious on a particular time, or if you meet a profile, or something like that, they can stop and ask you. Number one, you have to tell them who you are, establish clearly your identification, your papers, please.
Correct.
That sounds like Nazi Germany to me. And then you have to tell them what you're up to. You have, boy, God help you if you lie.
You have to tell them why you're in the area. You have to answer some questions. You have to tell them why you're in the area and what you are doing there.
Yeah.
And all of that runs counter to your Fifth Amendment rights.
Yeah.
Because all of that can be used against you later on if they twist it up. Ask any lawyer. They always tell you to shut your mouth and not say anything.
Absolutely. The first thing they tell you when they arrest you always was, you have a right to remain silent. Now, you have a duty not to remain silent, and you haven't done anything, number one. And number two, there is no crime.
Well, and this is according to this bill. I called his office.
Yeah.
And, I stopped into his office because I was at the Capitol.
That's right.
And so I went to the office, and I was told that I watched the video. Actually, it was in the video I got this bit of information. He said it was a constituent request from law enforcement.
Yes.
Now, mind you, law enforcement, specific officers are constituents. Mm-hmm. But a request from law enforcement, something this broad and sweeping, is not a constituent request.
I think he was duped into it by somebody.
Well, that may be. But the other thing is, when I did stop into his office the next day, it was on Thursday, I was told by his his legislative assistant, that he had pulled it. Now, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it come down. I haven't seen anything taken off.
I got word last night.
Okay.
And because we were talking in State of Union, getting ready to hear Trump, and I mentioned it, and then I found another blogger said, no, don't take your name off of it as author, because if it sits there without an authorship and it's already passed committee, any lawmaker can claim
pick it up.
Original authorship of it.
Okay.
And then you don't have any control. So then he was told, no, keep your name on it.
Okay.
But over the weekend, several different groups came out. Don Spencer was one, and he posted, hey, I've talked to Eccles. Eccles said,
Never happening.
He's 99 point something % sure it will not get a floor vote, which John is the floor leader,
Correct.
right? But he does share power with some other people. And last night I was explaining this to some different groups, and then Eccles came on himself and told some medical marijuana advocacy groups. He said, look, this is how sure I am, but tomorrow I'm meeting with the House leadership, and then I can give you an even more certain answer to it. So I haven't heard yet back from John today, but I think here's the thing, folks, there are, 10 people voted for that. I think it was 10.
It was 10-6.
10-6. Everybody who voted for that needs to answer to each one of us why they did, especially if you're a constituent of that lawmaker.
Correct.
Because if they don't know civil rights any better than that, they don't belong there.
Well, actually, that is the vote for that bill, as it was laid forth, demonstrates their perjuring of their oath.
Yeah.
Because it runs counter to the Fourth and Fifth Amendments. Your Fifth Amendment right, especially, it just attacks and obliterates.
Yes. And their oath is to protect the Constitution.
Well, to support, obey, and defend.
Defend the Constitution.
Specifically, that's what it says. Support, obey, and defend. And they did none of that with this bill.
Yeah, and look, David Smith, I'm not giving him an easy out. The best thing he can do is what he has done is claim humbly, I screwed up.
Right.
I trusted people that I thought knew better, and then they fudged the definitions with him in that. He thought that reasonable suspicion was the same as probable cause.
Okay.
And in legal terms, it's not.
Well, and this comes down to we the people needing to pick our representatives better.
Yeah.
Because if we get I have a state senator that was completely oblivious to a lot of the issues that were being brought to him.
Yeah.
And if you are that oblivious, you can get in and do some real damage.
Yeah.
And we have got to have people who are more grounded, certainly in the Constitution, but in all matters.
I'm telling
frankly.
you, they think that automatic weapons or semi-automatic weapons are dangerous. Legislative votes are dangerous. They have a power to do a lot of harm with that single vote they cast on each deal. But so there was that. We're going to keep following up on that, and I like what a lot of people says. I won't rest until I know for sure it's dead. But here's something that came up. You were there Thursday. I didn't make it. I had some family things to attend to. But there was a big rally, and now there's going to be 2 rallies that are pretty big this week. And I really wanted to let you talk about what happened last Thursday.
Well, I didn't make much of the rallies. I was there for my own business.
But I think medical marijuana patients were trying to defend their right to be treated with their medicine. That was meeting in a rotunda in the morning.
Right. Again, I disagree with the way they're going about it. We all have the right to use whatever medicine we need, whenever we need it, however we need it,
and that's
so long as it doesn't violate anybody else.
Well, and that's what's motivating, whether their strategy is the same as yours or mine.
And I would hope that would be. The thing is that the people behind a lot of this stuff I disagree with fundamentally on the way they're going about it. I just don't see the need. But and it's created hardship. The way they have gone about it has created other hardships that didn't exist before.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Okay.
We've got to get away from that.
But several hundred were there for that.
Yes,
and now this week, probably more. You want to talk about what's coming up?
Well, with medical marijuana, I don't know. But
I'm talking about the
Wednesday,
the pro-life bunch, and then the parental rights.
So
bunch.
Tomorrow there will be the abolitionist day at the Capitol, where they are pushing a bill that is just passed the House.
Yes.
And
now, I'm going to say that was more than 70 votes in favor of it. And what it does, it says, if you're doing selective abortions, doctor, we're going to pull your doctor's license for selective abortions.
Right. And that, and I would totally agree with that.
Okay.
I still think that the abolitionists are doing it the wrong way. We need to re-acknowledge the humanity of all humans, born and unborn, and then apply the murder statutes appropriately.
Yeah,
I think that's as simple as it gets. Whether we need to make statute or something like that.
Here's the strategy they're doing a little different. Last year, they started with a Senate bill by Joseph Silk,
Right.
SB 13. They started in the Senate, and it had the big showdown, and it was just stupid. It got ugly. The wrong people got involved and just created a hostile environment where the bill never got a hearing.
Correct.
But this one started over in the House. Representative Jim Olson presented the bill, got it right through committee and right onto the floor
It
by.
sped through.
Yeah, I think was it Wednesday? I think
It was quick. It was only a couple days into session. They had
no, it was Thursday morning.
It might have been Thursday
because
morning.
they were arguing that while
it was
the
Thursday
marijuana
morning. Yes, it
patients
was.
were out.
Yes, it was Thursday
Yeah.
morning.
So anyway, so we've got that going on, and then the parental rights rally. That's gonna be
So Wednesday will be the Oklahomans for Health and Parental Rights, big rally at the Capitol. They will be there. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. Something that I haven't talked about here, I don't think yet, but it should be on our minds. And in this whole idea of incrementalism, the state of South Dakota is tossing that concept on its head. They are just throwing it out the second-story window.
What concept's that?
Incrementalism.
Okay.
They are the proposal by the leader of the House in South Dakota is to repeal all vaccine mandates in the state and make it a crime to deny entry into any public state institution of any form without vaccine.
Well,
so if somebody denies, then they will.
But then people will only
guilty.
go to the doctor because they want to.
Exactly. At least in South Dakota, if this gets
That's a
through.
concept.
So we're hoping that we can get some things picked up there.
Yeah.
With the parental rights and medical marijuana.
Yeah.
There is a date that we have to mention. I want to mention it now if we can, just because it's here.
Yep.
And that is March 5th.
Okay.
Now, what has happened is a lot of rules and things have failed in the legislature. They do not make it through because they are bad bills, and people rise up and speak out, and they don't get through. Well, what we have is a bunch of unelected bureaucrats over at the State Department of Health who are deciding to put through Senator Yen's bill on bureaucratic red tape for non-vaccinating parents.
Yeah, Tom, you have to sit through a propaganda film
Correct.
for each one of your kids that says, no, I want to claim religious or philosophical exemption from being vaccinated. So each one of your kids, and then you have to redo it again in their 6th grade. So if you got 4 kids, you got to go through the propaganda films 8 times.
They should do abortions like that. So they show the film of the kid, and then 6 years later, after the kid you killed, they come back and here's pictures.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. This was on Channel 8. They had a story on it, very pro-vaccine.
Yeah.
But what they had was Dr. Cools, and he's the big vaccination guy other than Yen here in the state.
Yeah.
And a pediatrician, and he said the purpose of those particular measures for the vaccinations was to make it more painful or more objectionable to go to the health department than to go to the doctor. So in other words, make it easier on you. Freedom isn't good enough. We've got to make it painful to not go to the doctor and get the vaccination.
Yeah, they're going to slow walk you and run you through red tape in order for you to claim a right.
But on March 5th, that's not the only thing. There's 124 pages of changes to the medical marijuana rules, state rules, to be dealt with on that same day. And this leads into my legislative little tidbit, and that is I would like everybody to look at HB 1201. It's by Tom Gann last year. It's very important because right now rules changes. It passed the House. It's over in the Senate. We may need to give it a little bit of a push. It's a very boring bill. It has everything to do with rules and how these state agencies create their rules and the position of the legislature toward those rules.
Yeah.
Right now, the way that it is dealt with is they create rules and they create whatever they want, and the legislature actually has to send a negative vote, to veto those rules,
Yeah.
or else those rules
Yeah.
stand.
Here's the problem, Tom. Basically, the health department or whatever agency basically plays God, dictator. And then in order for our government that is properly elected, representative form of government, is all of them have to vote to override. So
Correct.
if they could get just the House or just a Senate committee or the governor to do it, to sustain their dictate remains law. And that just throws the legislative process on its head.
Right.
Correct.
That makes
Because
sense.
many times these rules are totally 180 degrees opposite of the intention
Well,
of the
again,
legislature.
again, the rules that we're talking about for both vaccination and medical marijuana have already been rejected by the
Yeah.
legislature.
Yeah, so I just want to say, many times the agencies will make rules to kind of flesh out, and to some degree you have to do this, what the process is for the agency that has to deal with the public, to create an orderly way, and you're snarling at me, which many times he's going to question.
What he means by flesh out is test. It's like the petulant 4-year-old who's testing his parents to see how much he can get away with and pushing the bounds.
Well,
That's
for
what
instance,
that means.
that says you must apply for something and something in order to do such and such. Well, the agency creates the form and authorizes the form. It's just many times it's a little mundane stuff, but those are rules. They're not allowed to go beyond the statute.
Correct.
And in fact, in the medical marijuana thing, they did initially. And the Attorney General had to say, no, you can't do half what you're doing. Probably not even half. But, so what I'm saying in this is many times these rules that come up in the legislature say, that wasn't our intention at all.
Right.
Correct.
We got to cap.
Correct.
We got to cap
Yep.
this show off. And before we do, remind us this is the first week of the legislative session. It goes 16 or 17 weeks. How is this first week going to play out with the fantasy caucuses and stuff?
Well, there's some things, and again, it's going to be a committee that's going to finally decide this. And yeah, if you haven't signed up
There
your
you go.
caucus team,
Where do you go to sign up for your fantasy caucus?
fantasylawmakers.com is where you go. You go in there, put in at checkout there to buy your team. And I say buy your team, but you're not buying it. The coupon code is 500K, Sooner Bucks, and you got to pick 8 lawmakers, and you only got $500,000 to do it. They're expensive.
It's Sooner
The
Bucks.
good ones cost, the Sooner Bucks.
These aren't real money.
Yeah, it isn't real money, but this is our first year doing it. I just picked my team, and Jameson fought over there. Muskogee Politico is already smack talking me.
Yeah, this is a great idea.
Yeah, but yeah, pick your team, and we're
you're
going to have a lot
playing.
of fun. I am, but I can't actually win.
Well,
I'm not in
obviously,
the
but
competition for the open
Well,
league.
I was thinking I
But-
shouldn't even play because
No,
you
go
have
pick
to
your
play.
team.
Yeah,
You go
yeah.
pick your
Well,
team.
okay, I'll go
You
pick
get
my
a team.
team.
You get a team. You get a team.
Yeah.
Y'all get a team.
join
Well,
us.
and there's
That'll
only,
be fun.
It's a fast season. It goes fast.
Yeah.
There's only 16 weeks.
Yeah.
So you got to get in now. as
Yeah.
fast as you
No,
can.
the only thing, this is our beta test year. This is new. And so we're actually going to, we don't know which are the bills that are going to be scored. And so what we're going to do is at the end of the season, we're going to pick the scored bills.
Right.
But you don't know what they're going to be. And so you just get your lawmakers in a line, and you get your 8, okay? You want to go beyond that for the cause of liberty, and this man will be proud of you. But at least get your 8. And you know, hopefully we're all going to do that and have a great season.
Yes.
All right, it's been a great week this week for Republicans and a great week for 3D Politics Live. I've got Soonerpolitics.org with David Van, constitutionalgrounds.com, David Oldham, and I am on Twitter at Tom E. McKay. We'll see you next week, 7 p.m. And don't forget, Wednesday the 19th, the Libertarian Rex Lawhorn.
Yes.
Good night, guys.
Good night.